Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about truths that echo across the centuries. Wisdom that came from the quiet lips of a man who understood life before the world became loud. Lao Tzu once said, "Knowing others is intelligence, knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power." We live in an age where we measure success by what we own, but he measured it by what we let go of. He taught that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. In a world addicted to speed, he reminded us that stillness is not weakness, it is strength. We chase after more, but Lao Tzu warned, "He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough." These are not just poetic words, they are a map back to the life we've forgotten. A life of balance, peace, and true freedom. True strength comes from mastering yourself, not others. This truth is as old as the mountains and as fresh as the morning breeze, yet in the rush of modern life, it is often forgotten. We are taught from a young age to compete, to win, to prove ourselves by overcoming others, and to measure our worth by comparison. We are conditioned to believe that victory over people, power over situations, and dominance in our environment define strength. But Lao Tzu, the sage of simplicity and truth, knew that the greatest battles are not fought on fields or in boardrooms. They are fought in the hidden chambers of the heart and the restless corridors of the mind. The enemy is not the persons standing in your way, but the fear, the anger, the pride, and the doubt within you. To master yourself is to rise above impulses, to hold your tongue when anger begs you to speak, to stand firm when fear tells you to flee, and to remain humble when success whispers that you are above others. In a world obsessed with external validation, mastering yourself is an act of quiet rebellion. It means you are no longer driven by the need for approval or applause. You understand that true power is not in making others bow to you, but in refusing to bow to your own destructive emotions. The strong man is not the one who can crush his opponent, but the one who can crush his ego. The strong woman is not the one who can silence a crowd, but the one who can silence her own self-doubt. This mastery is not achieved in a day, it is forged in moments. Moments when your patience is tested, when temptation calls your name, when injustice dares you to retaliate, and you choose the higher road. Lao Tzu's wisdom whispers that when you master yourself, you control the only thing in life you truly can. You cannot control the weather, the economy, the opinions of others, or the shifting tides of fate. But you can control your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, and your inner peace. This is why those who have mastered themselves are unshaken by storms, because their anchor is not outside them, but deep within. They are like mountains. Winds may howl, rain may pour, but their foundation does not move. In mastering yourself, you become free from the chains of impulsive living. No longer do you say words you regret, make decisions you wish you could undo, or get lost in the chaos of your emotions. Instead, you become intentional, deliberate, and steady, moving through life with the grace of someone who knows exactly who they are and what they stand for. The world will always present opportunities to assert control over others. It will tempt you with positions of power, with moments to prove yourself, with opportunities to show dominance. But Lao Tzu's truth reminds us that the moment we seek to control others, we have already lost control of ourselves. For if your happiness depends on bending the will of another, it is not true happiness. It is fragile, fleeting, and bound to crumble. True strength is independence from such needs. It is walking into a room and not needing to be the loudest voice. It is winning an argument by choosing not to argue. It is feeling the pull of anger but responding with calm. Self-mastery also requires deep self-awareness. You must be willing to confront your own flaws, to acknowledge the shadows within you, and to take responsibility for the way you think and act. This is uncomfortable work because it forces you to admit that the greatest obstacle in your life might be you. But only those who have the courage to see themselves clearly can change themselves completely. Lao Tzu did not teach self-mastery as a way to suppress who you are, but as a way to refine and elevate who you are meant to be. It is about turning the raw energy of your emotions into the steady flame of wisdom, about transforming pride into humility, fear into courage, and doubt into faith. When you master yourself, you also master the art of peace. Your joy is no longer stolen by the moods of others. Your purpose is no longer shaken by setbacks, and your confidence no longer depends on applause. You become unshakable not because life gets easier, but because you have become stronger. And in this strength, there is no arrogance, only the quiet assurance of a person who has fought their greatest battles within and emerged victorious. Those around you may not understand this kind of power because it cannot be seen in physical displays or measured in trophies. It can only be felt in the calm of your presence, the steadiness of your words, and the integrity of your actions. Lao Tzu's lesson is not about isolation from the world, but about preparation for it. For when you have mastered yourself, you can walk into the noise of life and not lose your silence. You can step into chaos and not lose your balance. You can meet hostility and not lose your compassion. This kind of mastery makes you not only stronger for yourself, but also a source of strength for others. People are drawn to those who cannot be easily shaken, because in them they find a mirror of the peace they long for. And so, the one who masters themselves does not just change their own life, they quietly influence the lives of everyone they encounter. For they are living proof that true strength was never about power over others, but about power over oneself. Stillness and patience achieve more than rushing and forcing. In today's world, speed is celebrated, urgency is worn like a badge of honor, and we are told that if we slow down, we will be left behind. We measure progress by how quickly we move, how much we accomplish in a day, and how fast we can produce results. But Lao Tzu knew that the deepest truths of life cannot be rushed, that the most powerful forces in the universe work quietly and patiently. The river does not carve the mountain in a day, yet it shapes the stone over centuries. The seed does not bloom the moment it is planted, yet in its own season it bursts forth with beauty. We forget that nature itself teaches us the wisdom of timing, that there is a season for everything, and no amount of forcing can create a summer in the middle of winter. Stillness is not laziness, and patience is not weakness. They are both forms of strength that require discipline in a world addicted to haste. To be still is to resist the pull of chaos, to hold your center when everything around you demands movement. To be patient is to trust the process when you cannot yet see the results. This is not passive living, it is active faith. It is understanding that some doors only open when you stop banging on them, and some answers only come when you stop chasing them. Lao Tzu taught that when we try to force life, we often break the very thing we are trying to build. Just as pulling on a flower to make it grow faster will only tear it from its roots, rushing life's process robs it of its natural beauty and strength. The truth is, most of our rushing comes from fear. We fear falling behind, missing opportunities, or being overlooked. But fear-driven speed rarely produces lasting success. It leads to burnout, to mistakes, and to a life lived on the surface. Patience, on the other hand, digs deep roots. It allows growth to happen in a way that is sustainable and enduring. When you wait with purpose, you are not wasting time. You are preparing for the right time. Stillness is the same. It allows you to hear what the noise of business drowns out. In stillness, you see more clearly, think more deeply, and act more wisely. Lao Tzu understood that life unfolds in its own rhythm, and that rhythm is not always in step with our desires. The river flows at its own pace. The sun rises and sets on its own schedule, and no amount of human effort can change these patterns. When we learn to align ourselves with life's timing instead of fighting it, we begin to experience peace. The impatient soul exhausts itself by trying to force outcomes, but the patient soul conserves energy, knowing that life has a way of bringing what is meant for us when we are ready for it. Stillness also teaches us the power of observation. When you are still, you notice details others overlook. You see opportunities others rush past. You sense changes in direction before they happen. This is why stillness is not idleness. It is strategy. Great decisions are rarely made in haste. Leaders, visionaries, and those who have shaped history often speak of the moments they waited, watched, and listened before taking decisive action. Their power came not from constant movement, but from knowing when to move and when to be still. Patience is the partner of stillness. It teaches us to endure the discomfort of not yet having what we want. This endurance is a refining fire, shaping our character, strengthening our resolve, and humbling our pride. Without patience, we would not appreciate the blessings when they come, because we would not have learned the value of waiting for them. The impatient person often gains quickly, but loses just as quickly, because what comes too soon is often not yet strong enough to last. Patience ensures that when we receive, we are ready to hold on to it. The paradox is that slowing down often speeds up our progress. When we act from a place of stillness and patience, our steps are more focused, our decisions more precise, and our actions more effective. We stop wasting energy on unnecessary battles and channel our efforts toward what truly matters. The tree that grows slowly develops deep roots that can withstand any storm, while the one that grows too fast, without a strong foundation, falls at the first strong wind. In practicing stillness, we also learn self-control. We resist the urge to react to every situation immediately. We learn to pause before speaking, to breathe before deciding, to reflect before acting. This pause often makes the difference between a mistake and a breakthrough. In patience, we learn to embrace the journey instead of constantly racing toward the destination. We find meaning in the process, beauty in the waiting, and strength in the calm. Lao Tzu's wisdom challenges the modern way of living. It tells us that life is not a race to be won, but a path to be walked. That some of the greatest victories come not from the battles we fight, but from the ones we refuse to engage in. That there is power in restraint, courage in waiting, and victory in surrendering to the right timing. Stillness and patience are not just virtues. They are tools for building a life of depth, meaning, and true success. They allow us to walk through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that what is meant to be will come, and when it does, it will be worth every moment. We waited. Contentment is the highest form of wealth. In a world where success is often measured by the size of a bank account, the number of possessions, or the level of influence, this truth can feel almost impossible to accept. We are surrounded by messages telling us to want more, to climb higher, to never settle. We are taught to equate happiness with achievement, fulfillment with acquisition, and self-worth with status. Yet Lao Tzu understood that the richest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. True wealth is not found in the accumulation of things, but in the freedom from needing them to feel complete. It is the quiet satisfaction that comes from looking at your life, no matter its size or shape, and feeling that it is enough. Contentment does not mean a lack of ambition. It does not mean you stop dreaming, stop striving, or stop growing. Instead, it is the foundation upon which healthy ambition is built. Without contentment, ambition becomes greed, and striving turns into endless dissatisfaction. No matter how much you gain, you will always want more, always feel behind, Always believe that happiness is somewhere in the next purchase or the next accomplishment. But with contentment, you can pursue your goals from a place of joy rather than desperation. You are not chasing success to fill an emptiness inside. You are creating, working, and building because you are already whole. Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that when you are content, the world's temptations lose their grip on you. Advertising loses its power, comparisons lose their sting, and jealousy fades away. You begin to see life through a lens of gratitude, noticing the abundance you already have instead of the things you lack. This shift is profound. The same home that once felt too small now feels cozy and safe. The same job that once seemed insufficient becomes a source of stability and opportunity. The same body you once criticized becomes a vessel of strength and capability. Contentment changes nothing in your circumstances, but changes everything in your perspective. There is a quiet power in needing less. When you are content, you cannot be manipulated by fear of loss or by the promise of gain. You are not chained to the relentless pursuit of more, and that freedom is a form of wealth no amount of money can buy. This is why some of the richest people in the world live in quiet simplicity, and why some of the most outwardly successful people are restless and unsatisfied. Contentment is a kind of inner treasure, one that thieves cannot steal, markets cannot crash, and time cannot erode. The pursuit of contentment often requires letting go of unrealistic expectations, letting go of constant comparison, letting go of the belief that your worth is determined by external measures. It is learning to see the beauty in the ordinary, to savor the small joys, to find fulfillment in moments that cost nothing at all. A sunrise, a conversation, a shared meal, a quiet walk. These are the treasures that contentment allows you to recognize. Without it, these moments pass unnoticed as you race toward the next big thing. Contentment also makes you more present. When you are not obsessed with what's next, you can truly live in what is now. You listen more deeply, laugh more fully, and love more freely. Your relationships benefit because you are not using people as a means to an end, but valuing them for who they are. Your work benefits because you can focus on doing it well rather than rushing through it to reach some imagined destination. Life itself becomes richer not because anything external has changed, but because your heart has changed. There is a deep connection between contentment and peace. A discontented heart is always restless, always reaching, always worrying about what's missing. A contented heart rests. It does not mean that challenges disappear, but that you face them with a steady spirit. You do not crumble when things are taken from you because your happiness was never built on those things in the first place. You do not become bitter when others succeed because their gain does not diminish your own sense of enough. This is true emotional wealth. To walk through life without being ruled by lack or excess. The irony is that contentment often attracts the very things people chase without it. When you are content, you make wiser financial choices, which naturally leads to stability. You build healthier relationships, which brings deeper joy. You work with a clear mind and a steady hand, which often leads to greater opportunities. But whether these things come or not, your happiness does not depend on them. You have already found what so many are still searching for: a life that feels full even without being perfect. Lao Tzu's teaching on contentment is not about settling for less than you are capable of, but about realizing that you are already more than you think you are. It is not about denying your dreams, but about refusing to let your dreams rob you of the joy of today. It is about learning to stand in the middle of your life with all its imperfections and to recognize that you already hold a kind of wealth that cannot be counted in coins or possessions. The highest form of wealth is not in what you store in your hands, but in what you carry in your heart. And the heart that has learned contentment is a heart that will never truly be poor. Living in harmony with nature is living in harmony with life. Lao Tzu understood that nature is not just a backdrop to our existence, but the very rhythm by which life moves. Everything in nature operates in balance. The seasons change without resistance, rivers flow without force, trees grow without hurry, and the sun rises and sets without fail. In these patterns lies a wisdom that humanity has too often ignored. We have built walls to shield ourselves from nature, created machines to outpace it, and designed lifestyles that disconnect us from its cycles. Yet the more we move away from nature, the more we feel restless, ungrounded, and out of tune with ourselves. To live in harmony with nature is not just about environmental awareness. It is about reconnecting with the very order and flow of life itself. Nature teaches us balance. The ocean has tides, moments of advance and retreat. The earth has seasons, times of growth, harvest, rest, and renewal. When we forget this, we push ourselves to grow constantly without rest, to harvest without planting, to expect results without nurturing the process. This is why burnout, anxiety, and emptiness are so common in the modern world. We are trying to live in a constant summer, forgetting that winter has its place. Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that honoring nature's rhythms means honoring our own. Just as a tree does not fight the cold of winter, but uses the season to conserve energy for spring, we too can learn that rest is not the opposite of productivity. It is part of it. Harmony with nature also means simplicity. In the natural world, nothing is wasted and nothing is excessive. A flower does not bloom to outshine the one next to it. It simply blooms because it is its time. Animals do not hoard beyond their needs. The earth itself is abundant, yet it operates on balance rather than greed. When we live in this way, we stop competing in ways that drain us, and we begin to take only what is necessary, leaving space for others to thrive as well. This mindset not only brings peace to the earth, but also to our own hearts, because a life of excess often carries the weight of maintenance, fear of loss, and constant dissatisfaction. Simplicity frees us from that burden. To be in harmony with nature is also to be fully present. In nature, there is no rush toward tomorrow or clinging to yesterday. The sunrise is not worried about the sunset, it simply shines. The bird does not sing for applause, it sings because it must. We too are at our best when we are immersed in the moment, doing what we are made to do without the constant pull of distraction or the pressure to prove ourselves. This presence allows us to live more deeply, to notice beauty we might have missed, and to connect more meaningfully with the people and places around us. Nature is also a constant teacher of resilience. Storms come, branches break, rivers overflow, yet the earth recovers. Grass grows again after fire, flowers bloom again after frost, and the sun returns after the darkest night. When we live in harmony with nature, we learn that setbacks are not the end, but part of the cycle. Loss makes way for renewal. Endings make space for beginnings, and every winter carries the promise of spring. This perspective allows us to face life's challenges without despair, because we understand that everything moves in cycles and nothing stays the same forever. Lao Tzu saw that separation from nature is separation from our own essence. We are made from the same elements that make up the earth. Our breath is the exchange of oxygen from plants. Our food comes from soil, our water from rivers and rain. When we treat nature as an enemy or a resource to exploit, we harm not just the planet, but ourselves. To live in harmony with it is to care for the source of our own well-being. It is to recognize that we are part of a larger whole, a web of life where every part is connected and every action has an effect. Living in harmony with nature does not require grand gestures. It begins with awareness. It is as simple as noticing the change in seasons, taking time to watch the sky, walking barefoot on grass, planting something and caring for it, or listening to the sound of rain. These small acts reconnect us with a truth we have always known but often forget. That when we slow down enough to align with nature, we find peace that no artificial achievement can match. In those moments, the noise of the world fades, and we remember that life is not meant to be a constant struggle against the flow, but a dance with it, moving as the river moves, resting as the forest rests, and rising as the sun rises. Letting go is the path to freedom and peace. Lao Tzu understood that much of the suffering we experience is not caused by what happens to us, but by our unwillingness to release it. We hold on to anger, to regrets, to the need for control, to the fear of uncertainty, and to the weight of expectations. We clutch these things tightly as if they protect us, but in reality, they chain us. The tighter we grip, the heavier the burden becomes, and the more we struggle to move forward. Letting go is not about giving up or losing. It is about creating space for something new to enter. It is a deliberate choice to release what no longer serves us so that our hearts and hands are free to receive what is meant for us. One of the greatest obstacles to letting go is the illusion of control. We convince ourselves that if we hold on tightly enough to people, plans, or outcomes, we can shape life exactly as we want it to be. But life is not meant to be forced into a fixed shape. It moves, changes, and evolves, often in ways we cannot predict. When we cling too tightly, we end up resisting the very flow that could lead us to something better. Lao Tzu taught that by loosening our grip, we allow life to guide us, trusting that its currents will carry us to where we need to be. This trust does not come easily, but it is the gateway to freedom. Letting go also means releasing the past. Many people live in invisible prisons built from memories of what went wrong, words that hurt, or moments they wish they could change. Carrying the past is like dragging a heavy anchor. It keeps you from moving forward. No matter how much you long for new horizons, the past cannot be rewritten, but it can be released. When you let go of it, you reclaim the energy that was trapped in old wounds and direct it toward building something new. This is not forgetting or denying what happened. It is choosing not to let it define you any longer. Another form of letting go is releasing the need for constant approval. We often shape our lives around what others think of us, chasing validation as if it were oxygen. But this pursuit keeps us trapped in a cycle where our worth depends on someone else's opinion. The moment you let go of that need, you become free to live according to your own values and truths. You stop editing yourself to fit into someone else's expectations and begin living in a way that feels authentic and true. Fear is another chain that keeps us from experiencing peace. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. All of these can keep us stuck in the familiar, even when the familiar is not good for us. Letting go of fear does not mean it disappears. It means you stop letting it control your choices. You move forward even while feeling afraid, trusting that growth and transformation are worth the risk. Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move beyond it. There is also a letting go that comes in relationships. Sometimes we hold on to people who are no longer walking the same path as we are. We cling to the idea of what they used to be or who we hoped they would become, rather than accepting who they are now. Letting go in these moments is not an act of cruelty, but of love. Love for them, in allowing them to grow in their own way, and love for ourselves, in making space for relationships that nurture rather than drain us. When we let go, we also open ourselves to the present moment. Much of our stress comes from living in a constant tug of war between the past and the future. We replay old mistakes or anticipate future problems, missing the beauty and opportunity in what is here now. Letting go of yesterday and tomorrow allows us to stand fully in today. In that space, life feels lighter, decisions become clearer, and joy becomes easier to find. Letting go is not a one-time act, but an ongoing practice. New attachments and expectations will always arise, and with them, the temptation to cling. But each time we release something unnecessary, we strengthen our ability to do it again. We begin to trust that we can survive loss, adapt to change, and thrive in uncertainty. We discover that peace is not found in holding everything together, but in having the courage to let some things fall away. Lao Tzu's teaching on letting go is an invitation to live with open hands. It asks us to stop trying to control every outcome, to release what weighs us down, and to trust that life has a way of filling empty spaces with exactly what we need. The path to freedom and peace is not found in gathering more, but in releasing enough to travel lightly. And when we learn this, we begin to see that the things we feared losing were never the source of our peace. To begin with simplicity is the foundation of true happiness. Lao Tzu understood that life becomes heavy not because of its natural weight, but because of the layers we add to it. We fill our days with obligations that are not essential, possessions we do not need, and worries that serve no purpose. We complicate life in our constant attempt to make it better, not realizing that more is not always better. Sometimes it is simply more. Simplicity is the art of removing what is unnecessary so that what truly matters can shine. It is not about living with nothing. It is about living without the things that weigh you down. In our modern world, complexity is often mistaken for progress. We chase after the latest technology, trends, and achievements, believing they will bring us happiness. Yet each new layer adds another responsibility, another distraction, another demand on our time and attention. The more we accumulate, the more we must manage, maintain, and protect. This constant upkeep leaves us with little energy to enjoy the very things we worked so hard to obtain. Simplicity, on the other hand, lightens the load. It frees up space in our homes, in our schedules, and in our minds, so that we can focus on what truly brings us joy. Simplicity is also a mindset. It is not only about clearing out physical clutter, but also about decluttering our thoughts and emotions. We often overcomplicate our decisions, relationships, and goals by adding unnecessary expectations or by holding on to imagined fears. Living simply means choosing clarity over confusion, honesty over pretense, and peace over chaos. It is making the conscious decision to stop overthinking and to let life flow without the constant need to control every detail. Lao Tzu's wisdom teaches that nature itself operates in simplicity. A tree does not try to be anything other than a tree. A river flows without needing permission. The sun rises and sets without complication. Nature's beauty lies in its straightforwardness, and in aligning with that simplicity, we find harmony. When we mirror this in our own lives, stripping away excess and focusing on essentials, we find that happiness often comes not from adding more, but from appreciating what is already here. True simplicity is not about deprivation. It is about liberation. It frees us from the endless cycle of wanting, acquiring, and replacing. It invites us to be content with what we have and to find joy in small, meaningful things. A conversation, a moment of silence, the warmth of the sun on our face. These are the experiences that linger in our memories far longer than material possessions. In this way, simplicity deepens our sense of gratitude, which in turn amplifies our happiness. Living simply also makes room for deeper connections. When our lives are not crowded with too many commitments or distractions, we have more time and attention to give to the people who matter most. We can listen more fully, engage more sincerely, and be more present in our relationships. Without the constant noise of business, we can nurture bonds that bring fulfillment far greater than any possession could provide. Simplicity extends to how we set our priorities. In a complicated life, it is easy to become busy without being productive, to spend our time on things that do not truly matter while neglecting the things that do. A simple life forces us to choose. It asks us to identify our values and align our actions with them. This clarity removes the stress of chasing after too many goals and replaces with the peace of focusing on what is truly important. Another gift of simplicity is that it slows us down enough to notice life's beauty. When we are not racing from one thing to the next, we begin to see the details. The way light filters through leaves, the sound of rain on the roof, the laughter of a friend. These small moments are easy to miss in a complicated, fast-paced life. But they are the very threads that weave happiness into our days. Simplicity is also a safeguard for our mental and emotional health. The constant stimulation of modern life, notifications, advertisements, information overload, can overwhelm us, leaving us anxious and restless. By simplifying our environment and our choices, we give our minds room to breathe. We sleep better, think more clearly, and approach challenges with a calmer spirit. In this quiet space, creativity and joy naturally emerge. Lao Tzu's teaching on simplicity is a reminder that happiness is not something we need to chase to the ends of the earth. Often, it is found when we stop running, when we let go of what complicates our days, and when we return to the basics: love, peace, gratitude, and presence. By removing the clutter, both physical and emotional, we uncover the treasures that were there all along. In choosing simplicity, we choose a life where joy is not hidden under layers of excess, but stands clear and open before us